Hi, this is Tej Arora. I'm an AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. In the AWS Quick Learn series, I will cover AWS services and features in short videos. These videos will provide a quick 360-degree coverage of a service or feature. They are suitable for those preparing for an exam or an interview or just want to refresh their knowledge. In this video, I will cover CloudTrail. Let us start with an introduction. So what is CloudTrail? It is a service that allows you to record all API activity, also known as events, from all sources. For each event, we record the who, what, when. So things such as the IP, the timestamp, the account, the IAM role accessing the API, the resource being accessed, etc. The entire activity history can be saved in S3 or CloudWatch logs for further analytical processing. And if you did nothing at all, by default, you would have 90 days of activity history in the management console and available through CloudTrail's own API. The activity history is recorded for create, delete, update operations. So what are the uses of CloudTrail? Fundamentally, it's an auditing tool and a change tracking tool. In other words, everything happening in your system is recorded, and this history of changes helps with compliance. So you can go through your history and answer any questions necessary to be answered for compliance. It also helps with troubleshooting operational issues, and it also helps with detecting unusual and suspicious activity. For example, if there's a spike in unauthorized attempts, it's available in your history. You just need the tools to identify it. Let me illustrate the basic aspects of CloudTrail through an architecture diagram. So here's the CloudTrail service, and what it records is all API activity happening to AWS services. It just records every access as an event. Now, there is a small exception where non-API events are also recorded. These include sign-in events to management console or the marketplace and so on. And also when KMS, the key management service, does key rotations, those events are also recorded. Now, as you can see, the way a REST API is accessed is through the management console or the CLI, the SDK, or directly by services or customer applications calling the REST API. Just like any other service has an API interface, CloudTrail does too. It has its own API which can be accessed via the same mechanisms. The basic artifacts within CloudTrail include events history, which can be downloaded, trails, and insights. We'll talk more about this in a few minutes. And CloudTrail can output logs to S3 buckets, or the logs can also be processed in CloudWatch. And further processing downstream can be done in Lambda or other services. Let's look at the key artifacts and concepts. There's essentially two main artifacts, an event and a trail. The events are of three types. Data events, they're also known as data plane operations performed on a resource, and these are supported only for S3 objects and Lambda functions. And as you can imagine, these are high volume operations. And then there's management events. These are called control plane operations performed on a service or a resource. So for example, EC2 instance creation, deletion, and updation. Note that for S3 and Lambda, creation of a bucket, creation of a function are management events. And then there's insights events. These are generated when there's an unusually high volume or low volume of management events that are write-oriented, which means these management events are creating, deleting, or updating resources. Now, what are the attributes of each event? There's a timestamp, the user identity, the service that the request is made to, and the service region, the resources being accessed, source IP, user agent, such as sign in Amazon AWS.com or the AWS SDK written in Java. It includes an error code and error message in response, includes request parameters and response elements, and a flag to indicate whether it's a management or a data. A trail is a log stream to an S3 bucket. with chosen events of interest. Now, what can be chosen for a trail? You can choose management events, read events, write events, both or none. You can choose data events. You can choose specific buckets in S3, all buckets in S3 or none. And you can choose Lambda functions to record specific, all or none. And you can also choose insights events, whether you want them included in the trail. A trail can also be delivered to CloudWatch logs or CloudWatch events. You can specify the trail to be an all region trail or a specific region trail. Means activity in a specific region is recorded or activity in all regions is recorded in this trail. If you have an organization created, a trail can be created for all the accounts in the organization, but it has to be done from the master account. Now, activity for a trail is published to S3 within 15 minutes of it happening. However, insights events are recorded within 30 minutes of happening, and it takes 36 hours for insights events to show up after the trail is set up. It takes so long for the initial setup because AWS needs to analyze the right management events to establish a baseline first before it can figure out what an anomaly is. Logs are written every 5 minutes, and optionally you can choose to be notified via SNS when a log file is delivered to S3. Now, some services are global, that is, they are not regional services such as IAM and STS. Now, these events are delivered by default in the trails created from the console. However, if you create a trail from an API, you have an additional flag to disable global service events. And note that most global service events are recorded as happening in the US East 1 region. Although they are global, they still record the region as US East 1. Let's look at the features in CloudTrail. So there is cross-region support. What that means is you can collect logs from all regions in a single S3 bucket. If all regions is chosen for a trail, activity in a new region is automatically included. No further configuration is required. Note that activity across accounts can also be sent to a single S3 bucket by configuring bucket permissions appropriately. There is support for organizations, so logs from all the accounts within the organization can be collected in a single S3 bucket. Log file integrity validation is an important security feature. Essentially, using this feature, it's not possible to modify, delete, or forge CloudTrail log files that are delivered to S3 without detection. So the log files that are delivered to S3 are encrypted through encryption support in S3, but this feature is beyond encryption. It identifies if there is any tampering. So if a log file was modified or deleted after delivering to S3, this feature can help detect that. Insights is a feature that identifies anomalies in write management events. And when there is an anomaly, an insight event is generated. To use insights, you need to set up a trail. Note that there is a limit of 5 trails per region, and this cannot be changed. Some of the pricing factors for CloudTrail: 90 days of management events history is free, and it's available by default without any configuration or setup. Now, one pricing factor is the number of management events. The first copy of the event is free. Anything beyond the first copy is charged at $2 for 100,000 events. There is a charge for number of data events at 10 cents for 100,000 data events. Insights. So for every 100,000 write management events that are analyzed, there is a 35-cent charge. Because only through analyzing write management events can insight events be generated. And note that there are costs for storage of log files in S3 that are separate. In terms of integration with other services, S3 is a destination for logs, and CloudTrail uses service-linked roles to write to S3. CloudWatch is a destination for logs and events, and CloudWatch pulls logs and events. You can do that configuration in CloudWatch to pull logs and events from CloudTrail. IAM integration is basic. It helps with access control to CloudTrail resources. And integration with organizations allows all sub-accounts, trails to be collected in one bucket. How does CloudTrail facilitate the 5 pillars of the well-architected framework? For operational excellence, auditing all the activity helps track changes and troubleshoot issues. And identifying anomalous activity helps keep the system stable and secure. In terms of security, the log file integrity validation is a key feature. The log files are encrypted at rest and in transit, although this is more property of S3. And identifying anomalous activity through the insights feature, it helps lead to security weaknesses in your system. For reliability, an all region trail just automatically includes a new region when AWS adds one without any further configuration. CloudTrail indirectly inherits the S3 reliability by placing logs in S3, and monitoring all activity helps identify scale and stability problems. CloudTrail supports an interface VPC endpoint, which helps keep traffic within the AWS network, which is fast and scalable. Facilitation of cost management is available indirectly via log analytics in CloudWatch or other analytical tools that can work on S3 data. This helps identify situations where resources are underutilized. Let's once again take a quick look at the architecture so that you can put into context all that we've discussed about CloudTrail so far. So this is API activity to all AWS services that is getting recorded in CloudTrail, with a couple of exceptions of non-API activity getting recorded. This is API access to CloudTrail itself to access the trails resource and the events resources. Basic artifacts are events, trails, and insights, and logs of events can be delivered to an S3 bucket and further processed by Lambda or other tools, or they can be processed by CloudWatch. This brings us to the end of the video. Thanks for watching the video. If you found it useful, please consider clicking on the like and subscribe buttons. If you can leave a comment about what you liked and what could improve, I would really appreciate that. Thanks again.